Dinosaurs ruled continents, soared into the skies, and rewrote the laws of size, yet not a single one ever became a true whale of their world. The legends of water dinosaurs hide a far stranger reality. Despite every advantage, no dinosaur managed to make the permanent leap into the oceans, even when rival reptiles did. What invisible barrier stopped them? What does this forgotten evolutionary failure reveal about the true price of conquering new worlds? The real mystery goes far deeper. Let's define exactly what it means to cross the waterline. Dinosaurs spent over 160 million years as the planet's dominant animals. They grew to the size of city buses, developed armor, horns, claws, and even wings. They shaped entire ecosystems, outlasting rivals and surviving multiple mass extinctions. Yet for all their power and adaptability, there is a glaring gap in their story. No dinosaur ever became a true ocean dweller. Not a single species joined the ranks of whales, dolphins, or seals as a full-time underwater resident. The confusion starts with the words themselves. People talk about water dinosaurs, marine dinosaurs, or aquatic dinosaurs as if they are just another branch on the dinosaur family tree. Pop culture throws in images of sea monsters with long necks and flippers, but those creatures, like ichthyosaurs and plesiosaurs, are not dinosaurs at all. They are marine reptiles, distant relatives that split off long before the first dinosaur ever hatched. So what actually counts as a fully aquatic animal? Scientists use a strict checklist. First, the animal must live in water all the time, with no regular trips onto dry land. It must feed underwater, not just wade or grab prey at the shoreline. It must swim efficiently, with a body built for moving through water, not just splashing around. Most importantly, it must reproduce in the water without needing to lay eggs on land. This is the whale standard for aquatic life. Dinosaurs conquered land and even took to the skies, but by these criteria, none ever crossed the waterline. The closest living examples, penguins, ducks, and other birds, still need land to breed. The fossil record is filled with shoreline hunters and swimmers, but the true leap to a permanently aquatic lifestyle never happened. The question is not just about missing sea monsters, it is about why a group that mastered so many environments never managed to call the ocean home. Penguins launch themselves from Antarctic ice into a world where water is home and hunting ground. They can dive hundreds of feet, chase fish with torpedo speed, and spend up to 3/4 of their lives at sea. Some, like the emperor penguin, hold their breath for over 20 minutes while swimming beneath the ice. Yet, no matter how well they swim or how far they roam, every penguin returns to solid ground to breed. Their eggs and chicks are raised on land, far from the dangers of the open ocean. This single requirement, coming ashore to reproduce, draws a clear line between even the most aquatic birds and true ocean dwellers like whales and seals. The fossil record reveals that this near miss is nothing new for the dinosaur family. In the late Cretaceous, flightless birds like Hesperornis and Baptornis patrolled ancient seas. Hesperornis, stretching up to 5 feet long and armed with sharp teeth, hunted fish underwater with powerful, paddle-like legs. CT scans of their bones reveal dense, solid limbs, an adaptation for diving, not flying. These birds spent most of their adult lives at sea, swimming with the efficiency of modern penguins. But even they had to return to land to lay their eggs and raise their young. Fossilized remains show nesting sites on ancient shorelines, not in the depths of prehistoric oceans. Today, seabirds fill every imaginable niche along the world's coasts. Puffins, pelicans, albatrosses, each has perfected a different way to fish or travel, but all are bound to land by reproduction. The closest living relatives of dinosaurs have pushed the limits of aquatic life, yet the checklist for a fully aquatic existence remains incomplete. The story of penguins and their prehistoric cousins shows just how close dinosaurs came to crossing the waterline, and how one stubborn barrier, breeding on land, kept even their best swimmers from joining the ranks of true ocean animals. Spinosaurus stands at the center of one of paleontology's liveliest debates. In 1915, Ernst Stromer described this enormous predator from Egypt, a dinosaur with a crocodile-like snout and a towering sail. But the original fossils, locked away in Munich, were destroyed in 1944. For decades, only Stromer's notes and sketches survived, leaving Spinosaurus a puzzle with missing pieces. Fast forward to the 21st century. In Morocco, Nizar Ibrahim and his team uncovered new Spinosaurus bones, including an unusually deep, flexible tail. In 2020, they published a study showing that this tail could generate powerful side-to-side thrust, much like a crocodile or even a thresher shark. Robotic models in swim tanks produced up to 4 times more thrust than the tails of other theropods. Combined with dense limb bones, more like a penguin than a land predator, these features fueled claims that Spinosaurus was not just a shoreline hunter, but a true river swimmer chasing fish underwater. But not everyone is convinced. Paul Sereno, a leading dinosaur expert, points to new 3-dimensional models and CT scans showing that much of Spinosaurus's skeleton was still filled with air spaces, making it surprisingly buoyant. His team argues that the animal's center of mass sat over its hips, supporting a bipedal stance on land. They say the tail, while impressive, was too flexible and not stiff enough to work as a powerful underwater propeller. Digital simulations suggest Spinosaurus would have struggled to stay submerged, rolling awkwardly at the surface instead of slicing through the water. The debate has become a scientific tug-of-war. Ibrahim's camp sees Spinosaurus as the closest dinosaurs ever came to breaking into the aquatic world. Sereno and others see a shoreline ambush predator, more at home wading in shallow rivers than swimming in open water. With the original fossils lost and new discoveries still coming to light, the question remains, was Spinosaurus a failed experiment in dinosaur evolution or a true pioneer at the water's edge? In the late 2010s, a fossil unlike any other surfaced in the hands of paleontologist Pascal Godefroy at the Royal Belgian Institute of Natural Sciences. The specimen, later named Halscaraptor, had traveled a winding path from Mongolia's Gobi Desert to a European auction house, its journey shadowed by questions of legality and ethics. An anonymous collector tipped off scientists, and that tip sparked an investigation that would eventually see the fossil repatriated to Mongolia after careful study. Halscaraptor looked nothing like the classic image of a dinosaur. Its skeleton revealed a long, swan-like neck and a body no bigger than a turkey. What caught Godefroy's attention were the strange proportions of its limbs, forearms flattened and expanded, almost paddle-shaped, and a tail built for steering. CT scans exposed dense bone in the arms and legs, more like a penguin's than a land predator's. The skull, delicately elongated and filled with sensory canals, hinted at a lifestyle that blended fishing with stalking prey on land. The anatomy suggested an animal experimenting with life on the water's edge. Halscaraptor's flipper-like arms and flexible neck could have helped it hunt fish in shallow streams, darting after prey with a motion more familiar in ducks than in raptors. Yet even with these aquatic hints, it lacked the full suite of adaptations seen in true divers: no fully webbed feet, no streamlined body, and no evidence it ever gave up land for good. The story of Halscaraptor is as much about the fossil's journey as its biology. Its path from the black market to scientific study and eventual return to Mongolia raised tough questions about the ethics of fossil collecting and the importance of preserving heritage. For paleontologists, it is a reminder that dinosaur evolution sometimes took surprising, almost experimental turns, pushing boundaries but never quite making the leap to a life underwater. Fossils tell stories, but not always the ones we expect. The location of a dinosaur's remains can mislead even experienced scientists. Rivers and floods are nature's great movers, carrying carcasses far from where the animal actually lived or died. In prehistoric floodplains, a heavy rain could wash a dead dinosaur downstream for miles before it finally settled in the mud. Over time, layers of sediment would bury the bones, preserving them in places that might look like the animal's natural habitat, but were not. Taphonomy complicates the hunt for aquatic dinosaurs. A skeleton found in ancient riverbeds or lake sediments might suggest a water-loving lifestyle, but that is not always the case. Many land animals, deer, elephants, even people, end up in rivers during floods today. Their bones sink, settle, and fossilize alongside fish and turtles, creating a mixed-up record. Without careful analysis, it is easy to mistake a land animal for a would-be swimmer. Sedimentology helps paleontologists sort out these puzzles. The grain size, layering, and mineral content of surrounding rocks reveal whether a fossil was buried in a fast-moving current, a quiet lake, or a stagnant swamp. Carcasses transported by water often show signs of wear. Bones scattered, surfaces abraded, sometimes missing key parts. In contrast, animals that lived and died in or near the water tend to be more complete and less battered because context is everything. This forensic caution matters when evaluating claims about aquatic dinosaurs. Just because a Spinosaurus or Halscaraptor fossil turns up in river sediments does not mean it was a full-time swimmer. The fossil record is full of traps for the unwary. To understand what dinosaurs really did, paleontologists have to look past the headline location and dig into the details, separating the story of how a fossil got there from the story of how the animal actually lived. Dinosaurs faced a barrier that no amount of sharp teeth or paddle-shaped tails could overcome. Their entire lineage was locked into a reproductive system built around hard-shelled eggs. These eggs, with their thick calcite layers, needed dry land and open air to survive. Submerge them and disaster follows. Water seeps through the pores and suffocates the embryo long before it can hatch. Every known dinosaur, from the smallest raptor to the largest sauropod, laid eggs this way. There is no evidence of any dinosaur evolving a workaround, not even among the most water-loving species. Other reptiles found a different path. Squamates, that is, lizards and snakes, have evolved live birth over 100 times. Some, like sea snakes, spent their entire lives in the ocean, giving birth to fully formed young underwater. Even among ancient archosauromorphs, a single fossil from China stands out. Dinocephalosaurus, a long-necked marine reptile, was preserved with a developing embryo inside its body. But this was an evolutionary offshoot, not a true dinosaur or a member of their direct family tree. For dinosaurs and their closest relatives, the machinery of reproduction was set. Their uterine anatomy, inherited from early archosaurs, forced them to lay eggs early in development, before any chance of shell thinning or live birth could evolve. This reproductive roadblock was not just a quirk of biology. It meant that no dinosaur could ever fully cut ties with land. The ocean was off-limits, not for lack of trying, but because evolution had welded the door shut. The next challenge, buoyancy, would prove just as stubborn. Dinosaurs carried a secret inside their bones that shaped their fate in water. Unlike whales or seals, most dinosaurs had skeletons laced with air sacs, pneumatic bones that made their bodies lighter for life on land. This design turned them into natural floaters, not divers. Underwater, buoyancy becomes a double-edged sword. Air-filled bones help a giant animal walk upright and move efficiently on solid ground. But in water, they act like life jackets, forcing the animal up instead of letting it sink and swim. Even the best candidates for aquatic life, like Spinosaurus, show a tug-of-war between these two worlds. Some bones in its legs and tail were unusually dense, a condition called osteosclerosis, which helps counteract buoyancy and makes diving possible. Yet, CT scans and digital models reveal that much of its skeleton still held air, leaving it less like a submarine and more like a beach ball with fins. This trade-off is not just a quirk of evolution, it is a mechanical wall. Dense bones let penguins and ancient diving birds slip beneath the waves, but too much weight would have crippled a land animal's speed and agility. Dinosaurs, built for life on land, could not afford to give up the advantages of light, hollow bones. For a land animal to become a true underwater hunter, it needs to overhaul its entire skeleton, not just patch a few leaks. The result? Dinosaurs always floated a little too well, stuck between two worlds, never quite able to sink into the ocean's depths. For more than 100 million years, the world's oceans were already crowded with specialized predators. Ichthyosaurs, with dolphin-like bodies and massive eyes, hunted in open seas as early as the Triassic, reaching lengths of more than 50 feet. Plesiosaurs glided through the water with 4 strong flippers, while mosasaurs, giant relatives of monitor lizards, became the top marine hunters by the end of the Cretaceous. These animals were not just good at swimming. They were born in the water, gave birth in the water, and never needed to touch land. Their evolutionary head start meant that by the time dinosaurs appeared, every major ocean niche was already taken. Dinosaurs, meanwhile, flourished on land. Their greatest experiments with water, including Spinosaurus, Halscaraptor, and diving birds, always stopped short of a full marine lifestyle. The competition was fierce. Marine reptiles had evolved live birth, streamlined bodies, and powerful tails or flippers. They could dive deep, chase prey at speed, and survive in environments that would have left even the best dinosaur swimmers struggling for breath. Then, 66 million years ago, a massive asteroid impact triggered the KPG extinction. The fallout wiped out the great marine reptiles along with most dinosaurs. For the first time in over 100 million years, the oceans were empty of giant reptilian predators. But the window of opportunity slammed shut just as quickly as it opened, because the non-avian dinosaurs were gone too. Only birds survived, and their evolutionary path led them to the skies and shorelines, not back into the open sea. The result was the greatest ocean vacancies in history, but no dinosaurs were left to fill them. Today, the ocean is still a frontier most land animals cannot cross. Evolutionary barriers, eggs, lungs, and bone remain nearly insurmountable for would-be sea conquerors. Whales remind us how rare such a leap is. In 250 million years, only a handful of lineages have managed it. The next evolutionary sea monster may be waiting, but nature rarely rewrites its own rules. What is your take? Could it ever happen again? Before we wrap up, there's one more area worth exploring. Eggs and buoyancy get most of the attention when people talk about why dinosaurs never went full ocean, and they deserve it. But they're not the complete picture. Even if a dinosaur somehow solved reproduction, even if it somehow stopped floating like a cork, it would still face the ocean's real entrance exam. Let's talk about salt first. Life in seawater isn't just life, but wetter. It's life in a world that constantly tries to dehydrate you while you're literally surrounded by water. Drink seawater and you pull more salt into your body than you can easily remove. Eat marine prey and you take on extra salt with every meal. So fully marine animals need specialized ways to dump salt safely and to hold onto fresh water inside their tissues. Modern seabirds can do this because many have salt glands that push excess salt out through the head and nasal passages. Marine reptiles and marine mammals have their own solutions too. But none of these are simple fixes. They're deep physiological commitments, and without them, the sea becomes a slow poisoning. Then there's the sensory overhaul. On land, smell is a superpower. In water, smell behaves completely differently. Sound travels faster, vision changes. Hunting becomes an entirely new sensory game. That's why so many successful marine hunters evolve new sensory priorities. Some rely on pressure detection. Some rely on whiskers and touch, like seals. Some rely on hearing that works through water rather than air, like dolphins use sonar. Some sense the electrical energy of their prey, like the platypus. And then there are some that build completely new ways of tracking prey at a distance. Dinosaurs were spectacularly adapted for land hunting, especially the theropods. But the moment you ask them to become underwater hunters full-time, you're no longer just asking for stronger swimming. You're asking for a redesign of how the animal perceives reality. And locomotion is probably the most expensive upgrade of all. Fully aquatic animals aren't just land animals that decided to swim better. They're streamlined machines built around reducing drag. Limbs become flippers, bodies narrow and smooth out, tails become engines. The skeleton shifts to support propulsion in water, not weight on land. Dinosaurs had powerful legs and, in many cases, powerful tails. But many of their major evolutionary trends pulled in the opposite direction. Theropods were built around balance and stride efficiency, with forelimbs often shrinking as the skull became the primary weapon. Many large herbivores became heavy, pillar-legged walkers built to carry weight, not slice through water. So a dinosaur trying to go fully aquatic wouldn't just be modifying one body part. It would be negotiating with an entire body plan optimized for land dominance. And then there's the problem people rarely think about. Dinosaurs were already winning. Evolution doesn't reward effort, it rewards advantage. On land, dinosaurs were doing what no other group could match for tens of millions of years. They had no shortage of food, territory, and successful body plans. So you have to ask yourself something. Why take the risk of becoming something radically new when you're already the best version of what you are? That's why the shoreline is full of near misses. Waders, swimmers, fish eaters, divers that come close, then stop. Because becoming truly marine isn't one leap. It's a chain of upgrades, each one costly, each one dangerous, and each one requiring the previous step to succeed. So, when you ask, where are all the water dinosaurs, you're really asking something bigger. Not why dinosaurs failed, but why evolution almost never allows any land animal to become an ocean animal in the first place. The sea isn't an empty frontier. It's the most demanding habitat shift on Earth. And dinosaurs, for all their power, never paid the full price of entry. Okay, quick confession time. I hope you enjoyed that exploration of why we don't have water dinosaurs. The dinosaur journalist pointed something out to me that I wasn't sure about. Yes, he asked me to do the voiceover this time, and I need to apologize for something. I pronounce Spinosaurus as Spinosaurus rather than Spinosaurus. Sorry about that. I'm sure some of you already mentioned it in the comments. I'll do better next time. And yes, Spinosaurus is the closest we have to an aquatic dinosaur, at least if you're picturing water dinosaurs as huge beasts rather than tiny fishing birds. Anyway, there were a few other things worth mentioning. Because if you ever wondered what it would actually take for a dinosaur to become truly ocean-going, like a whale, the answer is basically this. It would need 3 upgrades. Upgrade 1, the reproduction reboot. The first upgrade is the one nobody wants to talk about because it's not exciting. It's not claws, it's not teeth, it's not speed, it's reproduction. A fully aquatic animal can't rely on returning to land every time it needs to lay eggs. Not if it wants to live in the ocean full-time. And dinosaurs, like birds today, were built around the egg-laying strategy. Hard shells, gas exchange through pores, an embryo that needs oxygen even before it hatches. That works beautifully on land. Underwater, it becomes a biological disaster. The shell pores can waterlog, oxygen exchange fails, and the embryo effectively suffocates. It's the least cinematic reason in the world, but it's one of the biggest reasons true ocean dinosaur never really happened. So the whale solution isn't better eggs. The whale solution is to skip eggs entirely and give live birth in the water. That sounds simple, but it's a huge evolutionary redesign. Some reptiles have done it again and again, especially lizards and snakes. But the dinosaur lineage, the archosaur lineage, doesn't seem to switch into live birth easily. So if a dinosaur ever became fully aquatic, this is the first thing it would need. A reproduction system that doesn't require land. No live birth, no permanent ocean life. That one upgrade is already a massive hurdle. Upgrade 2. The body rebuild. Now let's say we magically solve reproduction. Great. Congratulations. You've invented the first dinosaur that doesn't need land to breed. It still has a second problem. It floats. Many dinosaurs had lightweight skeletal adaptations, and some had air spaces in their bones. Great for running around on land, supporting giant heads, and managing body weight. But in water, air isn't your friend. Air makes you buoyant. Buoyant animals float like corks. To become a real diver, you need the opposite. You need density and control. That's why many diving animals evolve heavier bones, or at least heavier regions of the skeleton. It helps them sink, stabilize, and stay underwater without constantly fighting physics. But heavier bones cost you on land. They make walking harder, they raise energy demands, they increase stress on joints and muscles. So a dinosaur trying to become a true marine animal would need a full-body rebuild, not a minor tweak. It would need a streamlined shape to reduce drag. It would need limbs that stop being legs and start becoming flippers. And it would probably need a tail that becomes an engine, not just a counterbalance. At that point, you don't have a T-Rex that swims. You have a new kind of animal, a dinosaur that has paid the full cost of turning a land body into an ocean machine. Upgrade 3. The Marine Survival Package. And now comes the final upgrade, the one that turns good swimmer into lives here now. Because the ocean isn't just a big pool, it's a different world with its own rules. Salt is part of this. Life in seawater constantly tries to dehydrate you. If you drink seawater, you take in salt that your body has to remove. If you eat marine prey, you take in even more salt. Seabirds solve this with salt glands. Marine mammals solve it through different physiology, including kidneys and water management strategies. Either way, it's a non-negotiable requirement. If a dinosaur became fully marine, it would need a real solution for salt and hydration. Not a behavioral trick, not just drink less. A structural solution. Breathing and diving are another piece of this puzzle. Underwater hunting means controlling oxygen use, pressure changes, and buoyancy. Even animals that are already good swimmers have to adapt their entire routine to dive safely and repeatedly. And then there's the sensory shift. On land, smell and sight dominate. Underwater, sound travels differently. Vision behaves differently. Smell isn't the same tool anymore. Ocean hunters often evolve new sensory priorities, or they lean heavily into hearing and touch. Some develop pressure detection. Some develop new ways of tracking movement. So for a dinosaur to become a true marine predator, it wouldn't just need a stronger tail. It would need a different relationship with reality itself, because underwater hunting is a different sensory universe. So those are the 3 upgrades. Reproduction reboot, body rebuild, marine survival package. And the reason dinosaurs never became fully aquatic starts to look less like a failure and more like an admission fee. Because the ocean doesn't accept partial payment. It demands a full redesign, and it demands it across multiple systems at the same time. Which brings us back to something kind of interesting. Dinosaurs didn't avoid the water because they were incapable. They avoided full aquatic life because they were already dominating the land, and the ocean was already full of specialists that had been evolving for that environment for a long time. So if you ever feel disappointed that we didn't get a genuine sea T-Rex, remember this. Nature didn't forget to make water dinosaurs. The ocean just made the price too high. And honestly, that might be for the best. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe. Your subscription supports the channel and encourages us to make more videos for you. Until next time.